Hello, Super Earthians, enjoyers of democracy, lovers of the big D, and of course the D stands for democracy, and not anything else that your sick little communist heads may have thought of. Today we'll be giving a short history lesson on the Terminids, the giant bug things if we want to be more specific here. Terminids have recently begun attacking farming colonies under Super Earth control because evidently their bug brains hate democracy and the fact that it allows our beautiful citizens the constant and immeasurable freedoms that they enjoy. It's important that we learn about some of the history of the evil Terminids and their biology, among other things, so we can better spread controlled democracy in the colonies that they have overrun, and on planets that will likely hold colonies in the future. Alright guys, I'm going to drop the typical Helldiver act here and stop talking about the big D, even though I do love talking about it, because I actually want to give a recap of the history without making dumb but funny democracy jokes every 5 seconds, which I very clearly have been doing up to this point. Even that was a joke in itself. I'm really on a streak here. Anyway, the Terminids weren't actually always referred to as the Terminids. It wasn't until very recently, actually, that they were called that. Originally, in a few evolutionary cycles ago, they were simply referred to as the Bugs by Super Earth. They probably got this name because they kind of look like bugs, guys. I don't know, maybe it's because they look like bugs. At least that's my guess. They also act very similarly to the bugs found on Earth when it comes to their caste system and culture. However, they're a lot smarter, larger, and obviously more powerful than the bugs that we typically find on Super Earth. The bugs were actually the first alien life that Super Earth had ever discovered, and they quickly labeled them as enemies and declared war on the bugs, saying that they could lead to the destruction of all mankind. There's zero evidence of the bugs ever being aggressive towards humans, and before Super Earth started the war, there were 0 known bug attacks on human or human colonies. It's not a good look, Super Earth. The war on the bugs was long and difficult, especially since Super Earth found itself at war with 2 other factions at the same time, the Illuminate and the Cyborgs. Of these 3 wars that Super Earth was fighting, the war with the bugs was particularly interesting, and actually helped in their other wars, because the decomposing bodies of the bugs formed a new type of resource known as element 710. It's an extremely efficient and powerful fuel source that's more than able to fuel the FTL drives that Super Earth uses to fly around the galaxy. Strangely enough, Super Earth scientists figured out the bugs could produce this fuel source almost as soon as the war started. Weird how that works. As soon as an unprovoked war starts, you find out your enemy produces the very resource that you desperately need. That's pretty lucky, guys. I don't know what to say. It just sounds like it was meant to be. Just pure luck right there. Blessed, even. Anyway, after years of hard fighting, Super Earth and the Helldivers eventually managed to defeat the bugs and conquer many of the planets under their control. On these planets, Super Earth would create large farms to hold bugs in order to harvest them for element 710. This period of victory and mass advancements is referred to as the Great Democratization, and it lasted about 100 years. Which is when the Second Galactic War started. During the Great Democratization, Super Earth scientists experimented on the bugs, attempting to increase the amount of element 710 that they produced, along with making them more docile and less dangerous in nature. While these tests were successful to a certain degree, at least with increasing the production of element 710, they absolutely did not make the bugs safer to deal with. In fact, the bugs began gaining a weird variety of evolutionary capabilities, such as shooting weird acidic bile, gigantism, and in some cases invisibility and flight. It's kind of rough. Eventually, while under the democracy's control for those 100 years, the bugs had evolved so much that they were essentially an entirely new species, and Super Earth saw fit to change their name from the bugs to the Terminids. After a while, the Terminids rebelled against their slavers and quickly conquered and took over a large amount of the colonies that they were present in. And now the Helldivers have been reinstated in order to attempt to stop the rebellion and regain control over the Terminid threat. There's a variety of different types of Terminids that might live in one colony. There are currently 14 different types of Terminids, and we'll go over some of the more important ones here. The nursing spewer and bile spewers are of particular interest because it appears that they give birth to the grunts of the Terminids, which can then grow into larger warriors. These are likely the most important creatures in the Terminid society because they are responsible for its population. Nursing spewers can give birth to scavengers, who eventually become warriors, who will then become hive guards, who then have the potential to mature into either chargers or brood commanders. Bile spewers give birth to bile spitters, who can then become bile warriors, and in very rare instances can even develop into bile titans. Shriekers are another type of terminid that stands out for some very interesting reasons. First off, they fly, which is pretty insane. Secondly, they just kind of started appearing out of nowhere, with some sort of rapid mutation suddenly giving a group of terminids the ability to fly, and then reproduce flying offspring with one another. Finally, the most interesting thing is they appear to be kind of their own species. They create nests and hatch more shriekers from the eggs in those nests. Unlike other terminids, they don't really seem to grow from the larvae state into a bigger creature and just start out as small shriekers at birth. Bile titans are another very important part of the terminid species and are generally considered the most powerful. Due to experimentation by Super Earth, certain terminid subjects begin growing at a rapid pace and is eventually turned into the Bile Titan. The Bile Titan is assumed to be the final growth form of the Bile Warrior. Finally, the last terminid I want to mention is the Brood Commander, which in my opinion is the most important part of their caste system. Brood Commanders seem to be the de facto leaders of the terminid nest that they are a part of, and are the ones initially responsible for them rebelling against Super Earth, with them organizing attacks and counterattacks on Super Earth colonies and people. Without the existence of Brood Commanders, it is very likely that terminids never would have rebelled against the democracy. It's also important to note that the Brood Commanders were present in the first Helldivers game and part of the Bugs Empire. They were low-ranking leaders in the army. During the First Galactic War, the Helldivers and Super Earth completely and utterly conquered the bugs, leaving no known large amount of bugs unsubjugated, as far as we know at least. Once subjugating the entirety of the remaining bug population, Super Earth scientists began modifying bug DNA along with breeding them selectively, mostly attempting to breed out the genes of the leadership caste, which would have been the Bug Brood Commanders, the Hive Lords, and so on. This has led to two vastly different cultures when it comes to the old Bug Society and the current Terminid Society that we're familiar with in the present day. In Bug Society, it's implied that there's either queens that were running the bug army, giving the commands with pheromones and they just remained off screen, or seemingly extinct Hive Lords who were running Bug Society. It seems very unlikely that the Brood Commanders of old were running everything, especially because of the large-scale coordination, which we don't necessarily see today with the current Terminid threat. It seems that most rebellions are started by the Hive Guards who developed the leadership gene and became Brood Commanders. Instead of there just being a concentrated large-scale effort with just one head, it seems as though Terminids begin developing into Brood Commanders at a high rate, which have then started a lot of separate rebellions that have eventually blended together to cause a large-scale attack that we currently see from the Terminids. It's unclear why they suddenly developed the leadership gene, but due to the immense genetic manipulation that super scientists have been doing on the Terminids, we've seen much stranger things happen, such as the production of bile enemies and terminids that can fly like the Shriekers. I also think we should address a claim here. Super Earth officially reports that element 710 spilled on terminids, which caused them to rapidly evolve for some reason. However, as I've been saying throughout this video, it's believed that gene modification by Super Earth researchers is what's really responsible for the evolution. There's honestly a surprisingly small amount of information when it comes to the bugs and a similar amount of limited information when it comes to the terminids that we're currently facing. My best guess is that Super Earth is purposely keeping a large amount of information classified and only telling the Helldivers and the populace what they need to know in order to stop and eliminate the enemies of democracy. I mean, there's not like a ton of reason to learn the cultural history and caste system of a civilization if it's currently on fire and also dead. So I think that's why there's a kind of a lack of knowledge when it comes to understanding of the insect cultures. While individually, the Terminids are far more powerful and menacing than their bug ancestors, overall it seems like repelling the Terminids in current day is easier due to their limited numbers and the fact they were completely subjugated for centuries. They just have less numbers at this point in time. However, that is quickly changing and soon the Terminids could become an overwhelming power with numbers and their rapid evolution. Anyway, that was just a quick recap of the history of the Terminids. I hope you guys learned something new while watching, and if you didn't, I apologize, but I hope you at least laughed at some point, probably earlier in the video. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'm interested in doing more Helldivers content if this video does well, so if you want that, let me know. And if there's any important information I missed, please let me know in the comments. I just recently got into Helldivers myself, after all that Sunny controversies when I heard about it, and I've been absolutely loving my time while playing. I decided to make this video because there really isn't a ton of lore put in front of you while playing the game. You kind of have to do some background information, like research, and put some things together on the enemies that we're fighting in the game. It's kind of interesting because they really don't just put it all right in front of you. You gotta kind of look for it a little bit. Anyway, I hope you guys thought it was an interesting video, interesting topic. Anyway, stay blessed, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace out.